Welcome to the Interior Design Beat podcast, where you will hear candid commentary on various interior design subjects and topics, including the good, the bad, and the ugly, telling you like it really is. Welcome to another podcast episode. I'm your host, Steve Adamco, professional interior designer, lighting designer, furniture designer, and the owner and founder of Spectrum Interiors, located in Portage/Kalamazoo, Michigan. Today, I'm going to be talking about advice that's given out on the internet regarding things to do when you hire a designer or decorator. Now, there's a lot of information out there. Some of it's good. A lot of it's very bad. A lot of it's written by people who are not interior designers, somehow doing their quote unquote research and then writing as if they are the experts in that. And a lot of them just really don't have a clue, sorry to say. So I was doing some research on this to see what people were saying, because like I say, I like to stand up for what's good, right, and true in interior design. And you might say I'm a fierce protector of my profession at a professional level. I don't dig amateurs. I don't dig mediocre and average. That's not part of my makeup. And that's not what you're going to get with me. So at times, I'm going to hit hard on this podcast. I'm not going to hold anything back, because who needs bad advice? And who needs advice that's going to cost somebody time, money, and resources? Nobody needs that. I don't care what your budget is. I've worked with people who have a lot of money and big budgets. So it doesn't matter to me. It's dealing with integrity. And I'm all about that when it comes to interior design. And one of the things I should mention, in a lot of states, you have to have passed the NCIDQ exam, which is the National Council for Interior Design Qualification, very much like the bar exam for attorneys. Some states have what they call a Practice Act, and others have a Title Act. So with a Title Act, you can't call yourself an interior designer unless you have passed the NCIDQ. Just like you can't call yourself a lawyer if you haven't passed the bar exam. Okay, so the other one is a Practice Act. So you can't practice interior design if you haven't passed the NCIDQ, just like you can't practice law as an attorney if you aren't an attorney and have passed the bar exam in the state you're located in. Now, for Michigan, I was part of the legislative push to get that done in Michigan. But for some reason, it didn't go over with the architects. And I'm very much into architecture. I love architecture. That's how I started out almost, wanting to become a carpenter first and then an architect and then an interior designer. But I decided I'd do the interior design because I can parlay all those other disciplines into one. So I'm a licensed builder. I am a carpenter. I know how to deal with power tools and hand tools. I design architectural details and all that stuff, which is part and parcel of what all good design is. It's a combination of architecture and interior design, which is a hand and glove relationship. But Michigan doesn't have a Practice Act. Michigan doesn't have a Title Act, which is one of the reasons why in Michigan you get this jumble of people out there calling themselves interior designers, interior decorators, without the requisite knowledge, education, learning, wisdom, insight, understanding, and experience that it takes to do interior design. So you don't waste your money with someone that you should have never hired in the first place. I'm really adamant about that. I've seen situations where, if the people would have done their own due diligence, thinking for themselves with their own mind and their own brains, instead of listening to friends, neighbors, and people who might think about it or might know something about it, or maybe not aware of all that it entails and takes to do great interior design, their opinions proliferate in this area. And, it's terrible in Michigan. I'm going to be doing a podcast here, maybe upcoming, where I'm going to do kind of a smackdown. There's one person here that has one designer, female designer, that's got the gall to say that she's the top rated or highest rated Google designer in the state of Michigan. Well, Google doesn't rate designers. Google is a search engine. So I'm going to come down on all this bullshit information. Okay. I don't go easy. I don't go light on people that screw up my occupation, of which I hold to a high standard of integrity. So you wouldn't want to mess with me on this subject. Okay. So I'm going to give it to you straight, not going to try to sugarcoat it, not trying to please everybody here, because I'm definitely not here to please everybody. If you got ears to hear, then hear. If you don't, then you don't. Okay. I could care less one way or the other, because I'm not going to try to appeal to the greatest amount or the greatest populace out there. I'm only appealing to people who have high degrees of integrity and high standards and appreciate expertise and are willing and able to pay for that expertise. All right. So anyway, I came across an article, 7 things to do before you hire a decorator. Now I'm going to refer to some things that have been written in this article, and I'm going to dissect it and take it apart. And I'm going to tell you the things that I agree with, that are true, and the things that aren't true, I'm going to tell you right away, they're not true. Don't be swayed by that kind of advice, okay? So nothing is more important to me than integrity and telling the truth about things. And it just irritates me galore to see all the crap that's talked about and advised for people. Like I say, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or little. And if you have a little bit of money, you better watch it even more closely, because you don't have the means to do it over again. Like somebody who's a multi-millionaire, they can say, well, hey, if we've got to spend $300,000 more, so be it. No big deal. Okay. Most people can't do that. So you've got to have some respect for people's money. And I do. Now, I don't come cheap, and I don't give my services away for free. You're gonna pay for my level of expertise. Absolutely. But what you get, you're going to get a phenomenal, full-bodied experience, service, and we're going to hit the target directly, smack in the bullseye, period. Been doing that since 1982. I'm very good at that. Okay, so going on here. The individual that wrote this said, hiring a design professional to work on your home can be a great investment. I agree. Whether you know what you want, but don't know how to get it, you don't have the first clue where to start, or you simply don't have the time to invest, a professional interior designer or decorator can help channel your ideas and turn them into something beautiful. Caveat, it depends on you getting the right one, decorator or designer. They do not all turn them into something beautiful. Okay? It's like Red Adair, famous quote, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, wait till you hire an amateur. Oh man, I've seen a lot of those where they had to redo things over again. What a waste of time, effort, money, and resources. A pain in the butt, okay? She goes on to say, they can lend their experience and their creativity to your home, creating a restful and welcoming retreat that's unique to you and your loved ones. Well, again, what is their expertise and their level of creativity? So you have to decide, she says, on a designer or decorator. Well, again, you've got to do your due diligence. What does this person bring to the table? And I mean, do your own personal due diligence. An important aspect when you're doing this is you have to formulate or know the right questions to ask so that you can get the right answers, so that you can get the right results. Now, with a designer like myself, I know the right questions to ask. So I will let you know, and I will volunteer that information so that you know that you know that you know that you got the right person when you're dealing with me. It's like the wife of a cardiologist. I told her how I worked, and I said, usually I recommend that you interview other designers. Well, that's a generalized thing. In other words, don't go on just what somebody said. Well, they're fantastic, they're wonderful, whatever. Because I've got some response on that too from an attorney who hired a lady because their builder said she was wonderful and awesome and all this. But he confided in me after I saw the mistakes that were made that he said, well, the builder said she was all this and that, but he never told me that her work sucked. Okay, you better watch out for that. Otherwise, you're not going to be very happy. Okay, so you have to look with some foresight into this whole thing. It's not anything to be taken lightly. So anyway, back to my story about the cardiologist, the wife of the cardiologist. I just told her that you want to interview people and, do some due diligence, find out who's got the sensitivity and the knowledge and everything else, just like you would maybe interview if you had to have a, really sensitive, expensive, critical surgery done. She said, well, do I need to call other people? I said, no, you got the right one. And when I say you've got the right one, I substantiate why she got the right one. I substantiated why she got the right one. That is so important that you give the reasons why from several different viewpoints, emotionally, intellectually, everything else. Okay. It needs to be a full-bodied quality decision. So anyway, continuing on, you've got to look at this decorator, designer, but typically a designer is going to be more into all the different attributes. And really a designer needs to know about architecture too. But a lot of people call themselves interior designers when they're just really amateurs. And it's really bad. And like I say, I'm going to be talking about a particular individual. I'm not going to mention any names. And it's just a classic example of if you heard this person talk about how they got into it, you'd think, oh my God, I'm definitely not going to hire her. And just because somebody's on TV or some other place, or they gave a speech somewhere, boy, I tell you what, in today's world, you better do your due diligence. Otherwise, you are going to not be a happy camper. You are going to, there's a phrase that I wanted to think about here, and it just came to me. It's what you don't know that's really going to hurt you. And I mean hurt you. Your pocketbook, your timeline, your house, and you don't want to have to deal with screw-ups, okay? I told you I was going to talk frankly and boldly, okay? Because when I'm talking, there is no bullshit, okay? No BS with me, period. Again, I would check to see if someone is NCIDQ certified. In other words, that doesn't make them a phenomenal designer, but they've been vetted, so to speak. They've passed the exam like an attorney. And that doesn't mean just because an attorney passed the bar exam, they're all great attorneys. It doesn't mean anything, but it's a better starting point than if somebody didn't have anything. Okay, but there's so many different things to look at. Okay, moving on. She says, determine your style. Well, so many people, they don't even know what their style is. They are people. I mean, do you look at somebody on the street and say, oh, I know their style. They have a certain style. Doesn't matter what they're wearing. I mean, they could be wearing a certain suit. Doesn't mean that's their style. Just because they're wearing a certain attire, clothing, doesn't mean that that's their style. But she says, it's something a lot of people have trouble with, but don't panic. You don't need to decide on one style and stick with it forever. Well, you don't have to pick any style because it's going to be your unique person. It's going to be a blending of everything that is you, your likes, your dislikes, how you think, what makes you comfortable, what makes you not comfortable. And these are all unique to you. And so you're not a walking style like, oh, there's Martha there. She's a certain style. And there's Betty. She's a certain style. And there's Mary. Oh, yeah, Mary. She's got a special style there, too. No, it doesn't happen that way because there's too many things involved with interior design. It's just not, a dress, shoes, purse, necklace, earrings, and bracelets. It's a lot more than that. It has to be orchestrated and designed to say something, to communicate something about you as an individual. She goes on, determining a style is more about discovering what things you like, figuring out what characteristics they have in common, and then giving this overall look a name. Oh, come on, give me a break. What a bunch of baloney. And then she says, you may find your style fits in nicely with a pre-existing look, or you may find your style consists of several elements of other styles. Well, that's called eclectic. But can you imagine? Are you a pre-existing person? And then she says, the benefit of giving the look a name is that it will help your decorator as well as yourself to assess what you like and how the elements fit together. No, that's a bunch of baloney too. That because you give it a name, that's going to make the designer say, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. I mean, that's like colors. They give colors all these romantic names. It has nothing to do with the color. It's just a romantic name. Color has 3 attributes: hue, the color; value, how light or dark it is relative to a grayscale, which consists of gradations of darkness from white to black; and then intensity, how bright, how intense, or how dull and dim it is, so to speak. So, wow, it's amazing what these people come up with. And people listen to these as if they're like, whoa, you're a writer, you're a blogger, you must know everything. Nope. Lots of dummies out there. And then she says, when you give it a name, it creates a mental picture that can make it easier to interpret and make a reality. No, that doesn't work that way either. You really have to say, what is this going to say? What is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like? What is it going to communicate? Giving it a name does not do that. Okay? That's just like pulling something out of a hat. And then she moves on to set a budget. The hardest part of decorating a space is making and sticking to a budget. Decorating can be expensive, particularly when you find inspiration through professionally decorated homes in books and magazines. And you have to remember that these rooms don't come cheap. Well, yeah, they don't come cheap. But most people don't realize, the vast majority of the populace don't realize how much things really cost. And that you can buy a chair for, what, $129? And you can go up to $20,000 or more. They don't realize all that goes into the structure of, let's say, an upholstery piece behind fabric that you can't see what the structure is. I mean, it could be all plywood. Other ones are, solid wood, kiln dried, screwed, glued, dovetailed, all this kind of stuff that makes for really quality furniture that lasts for decades. All right? And other stuff that falls apart after a few years. And, she is right about the fact that if you do have a budget, it does help you to allocate and determine the quality of the finishes and the type of design service you can afford. Well, hello, that's pretty common sense. If you've got $35,000, you're probably not going to buy a Rolls Royce for $350,000. And she also says, remember, also, there is no set fee structure for design professionals. That's right. Because of talent, wisdom, expertise, experience, vision, capability, and decision-making. Yes, the best go for top dollar. The best charge a lot. The best charge a lot because they are the best. And chances are you will not have a mistake, where with these other people who are low-cost designers, you're going to have mistakes. Somebody's going to overlook something, and then you're going to wonder, oh, crap. I wish I would have known that. I wish somebody would have seen that coming. I wish my designer decorator would have told me about that. And she says, when you're meeting with designers, make sure to go over their specific payment structure in detail so that you know exactly what you're paying for. And of course, remember that the designer or decorator fees do not include the furnishings. Yes, that is true. It does not include the furnishings. And she said, if you find it's too much to work with somebody throughout the whole project, you can always arrange for a few hours of consulting and then do the rest of the work yourself. Well, I agree with that. You can get some consulting and then you can interface with the designer at critical points along the way so that you're doing, let's just call it the grunt work. Okay, you're doing the stuff that you have to pay a professional for, but at least get the guidance from a real professional, not an amateur, okay? Not a mediocre designer, okay? Don't do that. That's the worst design decision you could ever make. That's like going to a CPA if you've got a big business and you decide to choose the one who's less expensive, and then you find out that because the less expensive guy didn't know what the most expensive guy knew regarding taxes, the most expensive guy, say, could have saved you $5 to $10 grand, and you quibbled over the price because this guy was, $100 cheaper. Well, you just saved $100, but cost yourself 10 grand. That's not very wise. That's not smart. That's really dumb. Okay, stupid. Okay, let me just say it, stupid. Now she says, research design professionals. Yes, do that. It does require a bit of research. They talk about going on House to find somebody, but House has really turned itself into a platform that is really not designer friendly like they said they were going to be at the very beginning stages of creating that platform. Now they compete with designers and sell other things. So it's not really a good scenario. And then when you get on House, you'll find that so many people are best of House. I did a YouTube video or maybe even a podcast. Yeah, one of my podcasts is titled Best of House or Best of BS. The best of House is not like House looking at everybody and saying, oh, they're the best. Everybody can't be crammed into the best, okay? The best is at the top of the pyramid. Don't tell me that the whole pyramid, even the base of the pyramid, is totally filled with the best. It's not. The best is based on what the designer's clients or friends or family or relatives have written and said about them is like, oh, she's second to none. And then you look at her work and you think, that's crap. That's total crap. And they say they're second to none. Holy cripe. That's like getting a hamburger at McDonald's and say that's second to none to the finest steak or filet mignon or porterhouse in a 5-star restaurant. I mean, where is their head? Oh, man, I'll tell you what, there's just such idiocracy. I guess maybe, I don't know if that's a word or not, but maybe I just made it up. Idiocracy. It's just not very smart, wise, and man, it just sounds really idiotic. I'm sorry, but you got to cut to the chase on this stuff and call a spade a spade. Call it what it is. Bad advice. Totally bad advice. And she talks about people there, if a designer shops at your frequent store, there's a good chance that they'll get your style. Again, you can call all kinds of styles in the design realm. And to say that, oh, you fit this mold. No, you don't fit any mold. You are totally unique. There's nobody like you on the face of the earth. There's only one of you. Now, there might be people that are similar to you. Maybe look a little bit like you, maybe talk a little bit, but they're not you. Okay, that's why this business is so personal. Her other advice is interview decorators. Yes, please, interview decorators, interview designers. She says, just because you found a decorator or maybe a designer whose style you like doesn't necessarily mean you should hire them. Working with a decorator or a designer is very personal. Okay, so your personalities mesh, yes, but the person has to be what you need, the person that you need. Yes, the person you want, but they better be the person you need. It's just like surgery. You could say, well, I like this doctor's personality, but if he doesn't have the capabilities to deliver what you need in surgery, you don't go by him. Okay? Other people say, well, I hired a decorator because they go to my church. That doesn't mean anything either. I mean, if they're a Christian, there's Christians in a lot of different churches, okay? They all believe the same thing for the most part. Doesn't mean that, wow, everybody that I do business with has to go to my church. It'd be like if the best designer or the best surgeon was going to another church, then you should hire that person for what you need. I mean, come on. My gosh. Again, it's just sometimes I have to shake my head and think, oh my gosh, what is the world coming to? That gives all this bad advice. And yes, as she say, your personalities need to mesh from the standpoint that there is mutual respect, admiration, and excitement, because it is like a mini marriage for a time while you're going through the whole thing. Because she said you'll also be spending a lot of time with this person, visiting stores and design centers. She says that the designer has to get to know you and how you live and how you use your home. In many cases, they become privy to very personal elements of your life. You'll also likely be spending a lot of time with this person, i.e. the designer, visiting stores and design centers. She says, while you don't have to be best friends, You do need to be comfortable with each other and be able to develop a good working relationship. If you interview someone and things don't quite feel right, or they don't give you the right information or what have you, then move on to the next person. I agree with that. So what she said about interviewing decorators or designers, I 100% agree with. Then she goes on to recommending that you create a vision board. Well, that can be helpful, but don't hyper jump to that right away. You've got to communicate with each other. Like for me, I say, what do you want this to look like? Tell me in words. What do you want to feel like? Tell me in words. I mean, you can show me pictures, but pictures don't always relate because they're not always attributable or applicable to that person, their lifestyle, their home, the location of the home, and the layout of the home. So you've got to get in and dig this out with words and talking, just like a archaeologist would do in an architectural dig. They got to dig out the hidden treasure. Well, that's what I do because I used to want to be an archaeologist after I read about the discovery of King Tut's tomb. Man, I wanted to be an archaeologist. But I've blended all these things together in my interior design practice, from being, a carpenter to a licensed builder. My love of architecture and the integration of great architecture with great interior design is a whole hand in glove, orchestrated presentation and walk-in, live-in environment. Okay, that's me. Plus, I'm a musician as well. So I like to do things where everything is orchestrated, where it just sings beautifully. Okay, I don't do ugly. I don't do design that howls like a dog. Okay, I do orchestrated interior design that matters in more ways than one: physically, mentally, intellectually, spiritually, tactily, the whole enchilada. But what I'm saying here is that a lot of this, it is visual. This is a very visual occupation, and it is helpful, but you still got to dig in. You still got to unearth the hidden treasure in the individual, the client, you, to bring this out. You just can't just say, well, I like this, I like this. Yes, that is all very helpful. I like this pattern. I like these colors, these textures, this type of furniture, these furniture layouts, and so on. Okay. So, the designer has to help you figure out how to incorporate those things that are pleasing to you and attractive and beautiful and functional. And then she says, delivering this vision board to your decorator will also help them get a picture of what you like, and they will draw inspiration from it. Well, again, in a sense, you're doing most of the work for the decorator. The decorator should be asking you questions. The designer should be asking you questions. Yes, that is helpful, but sometimes you can get off on a wrong track that is not appropriate for your situation, your lifestyle, the home that you live in, the floor plan that you have, the materials that are part of the architecture. Sometimes it's just not appropriate, and you just can't take it like that. Okay? That's very, very important. I mean, all I can think of, I shouldn't say all I can think of, what comes to my mind is that you want a body makeover, and you take a picture of a famous actress who's got a dynamic, phenomenal body, and you say to the surgeon, I want to look like this. And he says, well, I can't make you look like that because you don't weigh like what she weighs. You're not as tall as she is. Your bone structure is different than that. I can't remake you into that person. You are you, and I can only work with what you have to work with, that I can get close to that, but I don't want to make you look like somebody else. I want to make it look like you, or the best version of you. Hello? Makes sense, doesn't it? All right. Well, I think that gives you a little bit of insight into what to think about when you're looking to hire an interior decorator or designer. Please hire someone that is capable, really capable, who has vision, insight, understanding, wisdom, talent, experience, is a good communicator, can talk in very descriptive terms to help you envision what the room is going to look like. For me, okay, I'm thankful, extremely thankful, that I have the God-given ability to see things done before they're done at any step of the process. I can see it. I can visualize it. I can feel it as if I'm already there, and we may be months from the finished project, but I can see it already finished. and I can describe it to my client. This is what it's going to feel like. This is what it's going to look like. And I'll be darned, every time when it gets to that end, I said, well, what do you think? Does it match up to what I said and it was going to look like and feel like? And they say yes, and a lot more than that. I mean, they're just stunned. They're stunned. Well, that gives a great deal of security to the client when you have the capability to do that. Many people can't. They just fake it till they make it. Better watch out for the fakers. All right. So this is very important stuff. Don't take this lightly. Doesn't matter how much money you have to spend, whether you're have a limited budget or you are a multimillionaire. Do not take this advice lightly that I'm giving you, because I'm parlaying it. I'm comparing what she said with the way it's supposed to be. And you've clearly seen that I've said, okay, this is good advice and this is bad advice. Okay. So take heed. Okay. So you don't get yourself into some sort of mess that you're going to regret. Okay. All right. Well, until the next time, have a fantastic day and we'll talk to you soon.